The Andromeda expanse was a place where silence was loud. Endless stars shimmered like tiny jewels on a black canvas, and the darkness between them was thick, almost tangible. Space travelers who passed through often said it felt like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And on one quiet edge of this expanse, a small alien fleet drifted, scanning the void for anything unusual. Among them was the SS Perseverance, a human freighter that had not sent a signal in weeks. Its last transmission had been garbled, nearly unreadable, and full of strange static that made even the most patient alien technicians frown. The ship had been reported lost, its crew presumed dead, and its systems beyond repair. Every scanner on the fleet's ships agreed. The freighter was unsalvageable. Its hull was scorched, its engine rooms in chaos, and its life support systems barely functional. No alien engineer would even touch it. Yet, despite the grim reports, one human voice broke the silence aboard the fleet's command ship. "I want to board it," said Captain Mara Kellen, her voice steady, calm, yet filled with that unmistakable spark. Humans often carried a mix of stubbornness and courage. The alien fleet commander raised an eyebrow. Mara was small by their standards, her frame almost fragile compared to the tall, sleek, and metallic forms of the aliens. Yet, they had learned over the years that humans were unpredictable. Some humans had survived crashes, hostile worlds, and situations no one else could imagine. This one seemed to carry that same fire. "You will risk your life for a ship that is dead?" the commander asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. His kind had long relied on precision, logic, and careful planning. Humans, in contrast, often seemed reckless, relying on instinct and improvisation. Mara smiled faintly. "It's not dead," she said simply. "Not until I say it is." And that was enough. With little more than a toolkit, a coil of insulated wire, and a courage that could not be measured, Mara prepared to board the drifting freighter. The docking bay of the alien command ship hissed open, and Mara floated into the void in her suit. The SS Perseverance was not just quiet, it was eerily silent. The hull, once painted a bright white, was now scorched and scratched, marked by meteoroid impacts and the passage of countless stars. Panels hung loose, sparking occasionally, and the life sign monitors read near zero. Mara's eyes scanned every detail, her mind already working through possibilities. She had faced damaged ships before, but this one was something else. It was beyond simple repair. Even she felt a flicker of doubt, but she swallowed it. Humans were not known for giving up easily. Inside the freighter, the corridors were dark. Emergency lights flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Mara moved carefully, floating along with small bursts from her thrusters. The smell of burned circuits, something she had learned to recognize in her training, hit her through the suit's filters. The ship's bridge was the first place she needed to check. The bridge was a wreck. Consoles were shattered, screens cracked, and wires hung loose like broken veins. The navigation panel blinked red, warning of catastrophic failures, and the engine core indicators showed nothing but darkness. Any alien engineer would have left immediately. But Mara didn't see a hopeless situation. She saw a puzzle. She touched the main console lightly, her gloved fingers brushing over the cold metal. "Talk to me," she murmured, almost as if coaxing the machine. To anyone else, it would have seemed foolish. But humans had a way of communicating with their tools and machines in ways others could not understand. Slowly, she traced the wires with her fingers, noting which circuits were active, which were dead, and which flickered intermittently. One tiny wire sparked faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Most engineers would have dismissed it as a minor fault. Mara smiled. That tiny spark was a clue. She climbed down into the engine room, where the real chaos lived. The engines, which powered the freighter through space faster than most vessels of its size, were tangled with broken conduits, melted circuits, and scorched metal. The aliens' analysis had declared it impossible to repair. No amount of tools or machines could fix it without replacing the entire core, and replacement parts were light years away. But Mara didn't think like the aliens. She didn't rely on manuals or diagnostic programs alone. She relied on observation, intuition, and creativity. Where they saw failure, she saw opportunity. Hours passed as she floated from panel to panel, circuit to circuit, carefully inspecting, testing, and analyzing. Occasionally, she muttered to herself, making notes in a small floating tablet. She adjusted wires, connected circuits in unusual ways, and experimented with tiny changes that seemed meaningless but might spark something miraculous. Outside, the alien fleet watched with growing unease. They did not understand why she spent so long on such a hopeless case. Some even shook their heads in disbelief. "It is impossible," one muttered. "She cannot succeed." But Mara had learned to ignore doubt. Humans had an uncanny ability to survive impossible situations. From freezing planets to collapsing space stations, humans adapted. Their minds could see solutions others could not. And Mara believed, with every fiber of her being, that the SS Perseverance was not lost, not yet. Then she noticed it. One single wire, bent at an odd angle and partially melted, pulsed faintly with energy. It was isolated, barely conducting anything, yet it hummed faintly alive. Most engineers would have replaced it, bypassed it, or ignored it entirely. But Mara saw its potential. "This wire," she whispered. "This is it." The ship seemed to respond as if it understood. Mara moved quickly but carefully, preparing a plan. One wire, one connection, one chance to bring life back to a dead ship. She floated back to her toolkit, selecting a piece of insulated wire. Simple and unassuming. No alien technology. No complex tools. Just a basic piece of wire. Her hands worked with practiced precision, connecting the wire between the vital points the ship had shown her. Every movement was deliberate. Every adjustment measured. Her breath hitched slightly as she made the final connection. A faint hum filled the engine room, growing steadily. Lights flickered across the freighter's panels, and tiny mechanical sounds, fans spinning, valves clicking, broke the long silence. Mara held her breath. The SS Perseverance shuddered, as if waking from a long slumber. Red warning lights blinked off. Replaced by soft green indicators, the engines gave a low roar, like the growl of a contented animal. The ship was alive again. Outside, the alien fleet was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The impossible had happened. A human had taken a freighter, declared unsalvageable, and, with a single wire and immense patience, brought it back to life. Mara floated in the engine room, a small smile on her face. She had done it. She had saved the ship. Not with advanced alien technology, not with complicated formulas, but with observation, intuition, and the stubborn human will to succeed. The SS Perseverance was no longer dead. It had been given a second chance, and its revival would mark the beginning of something greater. A story that the galaxy would not soon forget. The SS Perseverance no longer drifted aimlessly in the void. Its engines hummed with a low, steady power, a heartbeat returning after weeks of silence. Captain Mara Kellen floated through the corridors, her suit's lights reflecting off scorched panels. The ship was alive, but it was fragile. One wrong move, one careless decision, and the fragile spark she had reignited could fade forever. Outside the hull, the alien fleet maintained a cautious distance. Their ships hovered like predators observing an unusual prey, fascinated but wary. They had seen many attempts at salvaging lost vessels, and most ended in failure. But humans were different. Somehow, against all odds, Mara had made the impossible possible. Her first task was to check the ship's systems thoroughly. She moved into the bridge, where consoles flickered uncertainly. The navigation system, once lifeless, now displayed blinking coordinates. Life support indicators showed fluctuating but steady numbers. Mara breathed a silent sigh of relief. The ship was functional, but it was far from stable. She paused at the main console, staring at the tangled mess of circuits and wires. Every part of the SS Perseverance told a story of struggle and resilience. Humans had built it to endure. But even the most carefully engineered vessel could not survive without careful attention. Mara's human instincts guided her. She could sense where the weak points were, where energy flows faltered, and where a single wire could change the balance. The alien engineers had underestimated humans. They were meticulous, precise, and extremely intelligent, but they relied almost entirely on calculations and standardized procedures. They could not see the world in the flexible, improvisational way humans could. Humans did not always follow rules, they understood them, but they also knew when to bend them. That ability, Mara thought, had saved the Perseverance. Her first move was simple but daring. She needed to stabilize the engine core before it overheated. The alien diagnostic systems indicated that several conduits were damaged, energy was leaking, and a chain reaction could destroy the ship in minutes. Theoretically, no repair could be made without replacement parts. In practice, humans found solutions in impossibilities. Mara retrieved a small toolkit and began moving through the engine room, examining each conduit carefully. Sparks flew as she touched certain points, and small flashes of light indicated active circuits that had remained dormant for days. She worked with patience, reconnecting circuits, bridging broken paths, and carefully redirecting energy flows. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the core, her mind calculating possibilities faster than any algorithm the aliens had ever designed. "Just a little more," she muttered under her breath. "Come on, talk to me." The aliens watched from their distant ships, their sensors recording every movement. They whispered among themselves in a language humans could not understand, but the meaning was clear. Confusion. The humans' method was chaotic, improvisational, almost reckless. Yet it worked. Every connection Mara made, every circuit she repaired, pushed the ship closer to stability. Mara reached the critical junction, a set of wires that controlled the core's energy flow. They were scorched almost to the point of non-existence. Any alien engineer would have declared them impossible to use. Mara, however, saw an opportunity. She pulled a single piece of insulated wire from her kit and studied the junction. With precise movements, she connected the wire in a way that seemed almost too simple to work. The engine shuddered, and a low hum filled the room. Lights flickered across the panels, and the ship responded as if it understood her intentions. Mara's eyes widened with cautious excitement. The ship was stabilizing, but she knew the real test was still ahead. Her next challenge was the navigation system. Without a fully functional navigation system, the Perseverance could drift uncontrollably, putting it at risk of colliding with asteroids or other hazards in the expanse. Mara floated toward the bridge, carefully monitoring the ship's orientation. The main console displayed multiple errors: corrupted coordinates, disconnected thrusters, and dead sensor arrays. She didn't panic. Humans were problem solvers. Mara examined the wiring, noting patterns in the failures. Some circuits still carried weak signals, remnants of the ship's original energy flow. Using her intuition, she connected a few critical wires, redirecting power to the navigation core. The sensors flickered to life, mapping nearby objects, asteroids, and the positions of the alien fleet. A small smile crossed her face. "Not bad for a dead ship," she said softly. "Let's see how far we can go." While Mara worked, she reflected on the difference between humans and the alien engineers who had abandoned the Perseverance. Humans could adapt to unknown situations. They could think creatively, improvise under pressure, and take risks that others would avoid. Aliens had advanced technology, but their thinking was limited by rigid protocols and logic. It was this human unpredictability, Mara thought, that often allowed them to survive the impossible. Her mind was alert, moving from task to task with focus. Every flicker of light, every spark, was a signal, a clue, a conversation with the ship itself. Humans could interpret such subtle signs in ways the aliens could not. She adjusted a few minor circuits, retested the energy flows, and slowly the ship responded. The Perseverance was no longer just alive. It was learning to operate again. Hours passed. Time and space was strange. The stars outside the hull seemed frozen, and yet Mara felt the weight of every moment. She moved methodically, checking engines, life support, and communication systems. The ship's AI, though mostly offline, began responding to simple commands. Lights adjusted automatically, doors opened with familiar ease, and emergency systems activated in sequence. Mara paused in the bridge, staring at the controls. She had saved the ship's core functions, but she knew the aliens still doubted her. From their ships outside, they monitored every system, their sensors calculating, analyzing, but failing to understand what was happening. A human was restoring a dead ship using nothing but intuition, patience, and simple tools. It was a lesson in human ingenuity that the aliens could not ignore. As she worked, Mara also had to consider the crew's safety. Oxygen levels had dropped dangerously low before she arrived, and minor leaks could still pose risks. She traced the ventilation systems, patched broken conduits, and rerouted airflow. Small alarms went off, indicating minor failures, but she ignored them, confident in her approach. The ship's systems began to stabilize, responding to her guidance almost as if they recognized her presence. Finally, she returned to the engine core, ready for the final test. The ship's main power conduits had recovered enough energy to attempt a controlled engine restart. Mara carefully monitored the core temperature and energy flows. Her fingers moved over the controls with precision, connecting wires and adjusting circuits. Then, with a deep breath, she initiated the restart sequence. The engines roared. The ship vibrated with a power it had not felt for weeks. Red warning lights turned green. Emergency sirens fell silent, and the SS Perseverance seemed to sigh in relief. The revival was complete. Outside, the alien fleet was stunned. Their sensors confirmed what they had witnessed. A freighter that should have been lost forever was alive. They observed the lights on the hull, the smooth rotation of the ship as it adjusted course, and the steady pulse of its engines. Not one of them had expected this. Mara floated in the bridge, exhausted but elated. She had achieved what was thought impossible. A human, armed only with skill, patience, and a simple wire, had brought a dead ship back to life. Her mind was already planning the next steps. She would need to test the ship's full systems, ensure it could navigate safely, and prepare for communication with the alien fleet. But for now, she allowed herself a small moment of triumph. The impossible had been made possible. As the SS Perseverance began its cautious maneuvers, moving in careful arcs to avoid nearby hazards, Mara realized something profound. Humans were capable of more than even the most advanced civilizations believed. They were adaptable, resilient, and creative in ways that no protocol or algorithm could predict. And sometimes, all it took to achieve the impossible was courage, intuition, and a willingness to see possibilities where others saw only failure. The stars outside shimmered as the ship floated past asteroids and distant celestial bodies. Mara felt a quiet pride. The Perseverance was no longer a lost ship. It was a testament to human ingenuity. Somewhere, in the vast emptiness of space, a single human had rewritten the expectations of an entire alien fleet, and Mara knew this was only the beginning. The SS Perseverance glided cautiously through the Andromeda expanse, its engines purring steadily under the careful watch of Captain Mara Kellen. The ship no longer floated aimlessly. It had a heartbeat, a purpose, and a pilot who believed it could survive. Yet Mara knew better than to celebrate too soon. A ship brought back to life with a single wire could not yet withstand the unknown dangers of space. The alien fleet maintained a close, watchful orbit around the freighter. Their ships gleamed under distant starlight, sending signals and scanning the vessel with precision tools. Mara understood their curiosity. They could not comprehend how such a fragile human ship had returned to operational status. They had never seen ingenuity replace complexity, courage replace calculation. She allowed herself a small smile. Humans had a talent for surprising the universe. The first test came sooner than expected. A debris field, remnants of a destroyed asteroid colony, loomed ahead. Sensors flashed warnings in the bridge, highlighting hundreds of floating rocks of varying sizes, some no larger than a meter, others several meters across. Even minor collisions could cause catastrophic damage to a freighter that had only recently been revived. Mara tightened her grip on the control panel. "Okay, Perseverance," she said softly, almost as if the ship were alive and listening. "Time to prove yourself." She adjusted the thrusters, aligning the freighter's course with precision. The larger debris would be easy to avoid, but the smaller fragments were unpredictable, moving in chaotic orbits that even the fleet's most advanced navigation systems would struggle to predict. Mara relied on instinct. She had learned long ago that calculations could only go so far. Intuition and observation often mattered more. The freighter dodged the first large asteroid with a careful burst from the main thrusters. Sparks flew off the hull as minor impacts rattled the exterior. But the ship remained intact. Mara adjusted the power flow, rerouting energy to shields and maneuvering systems. She was aware of every wire, every connection she had repaired. Each adjustment was deliberate, precise, and confident. The alien observers were silent. Their scanners indicated that the Perseverance should have been destroyed countless times over, yet it remained whole. They began to record their observations, as if attempting to reverse engineer what they could not understand. The smaller debris presented a greater challenge. Tiny fragments struck the shields, causing minor fluctuations in power levels. Mara reacted instinctively, redirecting energy from non-essential systems to stabilize the shields. The ship shuddered under the impact of multiple hits, but Mara stayed calm. Her hands flew over the console, connecting circuits and adjusting energy conduits. One misstep could tear a hole in the hull, but she moved with skill honed from years of experience. Through it all, Mara thought about the crew she had saved. If they had still been aboard, panic might have set in, slowing their reactions and increasing the danger. But the Perseverance trusted her. It had learned to respond to her commands, to follow her instincts. And in that moment, she understood something profound. Humans did not just survive. They adapted. They did not wait for systems to fail. They created solutions in real time. With a final, calculated burst, the freighter cleared the debris field. The engines hummed steadily, and the shields stabilized. Mara allowed herself a brief sigh of relief. The ship had passed its first real test. The next challenge came in the form of a gravitational anomaly. Sensors detected a nearby collapsed star. A small black hole. Its pull, subtle, but deadly. If the Perseverance drifted too close, it would be torn apart by tidal forces. Mara studied the readings carefully. The ship's thrusters alone could not overcome the pull if she waited too long. Time was critical. She made a quick decision. Using the ship's remaining energy, she would execute a slingshot maneuver around the anomaly, leveraging its gravity to gain speed without overtaxing the engines. The maneuver was risky. One miscalculation could fling the ship directly into the black hole's event horizon. Mara's hands flew over the controls, adjusting thrusters and stabilizers with precision. The freighter trembled as it approached the gravitational edge. Sensors flashed red warnings, but she ignored them, trusting her instincts. "Hold steady," she murmured. "We've got this." The Perseverance tilted, its hull groaning slightly under the stress, and then it swung around the anomaly in a perfect arc. Energy readings spiked and fell in rapid succession, but Mara's careful adjustments kept the systems balanced. With a final push, the freighter escaped the pull of the black hole, gaining speed and emerging into safer space. Outside, the alien fleet recorded every moment. Their communications buzzed with confusion and awe. They had seen the impossible not once, but twice. A human had revived a ship, thought lost forever, and now that same human had navigated it through a debris field and around a gravitational danger that would have destroyed any other vessel. Mara floated in the bridge, sweat forming at the edge of her helmet. She allowed herself a brief smile but remained focused. Space was unpredictable, and the Perseverance was still fragile. She ran a full systems check, ensuring that the engines, shields, life support, and navigation were all stable. As she worked, a new challenge arose. A sudden energy surge rippled through the freighter, triggered by a nearby cosmic storm. Electrical systems flickered, alarms blared, and some circuits shorted. The ship shuddered violently. And Mara knew that without immediate intervention, the freighter could be disabled again, or worse. Her eyes scanned the panels, looking for the weakest link. She traced a faintly sparking wire similar to the one that had originally brought the ship back to life. Using her toolkit, she carefully reconnected circuits, adjusted power flows, and rerouted energy through the most stable conduits. It was delicate work, requiring precision and speed. The freighter trembled, sparks flying, and then slowly the alarms ceased. Power stabilized, and the engines returned to a steady hum. Mara allowed herself a small nod. The Perseverance had survived another challenge. Hours passed, and the alien fleet remained a silent witness. They could not comprehend how one human could accomplish such feats. Mara reflected on their disbelief. Humans did not rely solely on calculations or protocols. They adapted, improvised, and risked what others would never dare. The galaxy had underestimated the potential of humanity, and she intended to prove that they were wrong. The final test of the day came unexpectedly. A rogue asteroid, larger than any previously encountered, hurtled toward the freighter. Its trajectory was unpredictable, spinning as it moved, and it would collide in mere moments if no action was taken. The Perseverance's thrusters alone could not avoid impact. Mara's mind raced. She scanned the ship's systems for options, considering every possibility. Then she saw it. A damaged auxiliary thruster. Almost completely ignored, but capable of a controlled burst. With careful adjustments and the ship's remaining energy, she could use it to nudge the freighter just enough to avoid collision. Her hands worked quickly, rerouting power, adjusting thrusters, and reinforcing shields. The freighter shuddered as energy flowed through circuits she had patched and repaired. The asteroid grew larger on the sensors, and for a tense moment, it seemed impossible. Then, with a calculated push, the Perseverance moved sideways, just enough to avoid the spinning rock. The asteroid passed harmlessly, spinning into the void. Mara exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of relief wash over her. The ship had survived every challenge thrown at it. In the aftermath, the alien fleet observed in stunned silence. Their calculations had predicted failure at every stage, yet the Perseverance had survived and thrived. One human, armed only with skill, intuition, and courage, had outperformed centuries of advanced technology. Mara floated in the bridge, exhausted but elated. She had restored the ship, navigated hazards, and proved that humans could solve problems in ways that logic alone could not predict. The SS Perseverance was no longer just a freighter, it was a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and determination. As stars passed outside the hull, Mara allowed herself a quiet thought. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced species in the galaxy, but they were adaptable. They could survive, improvise, and succeed where others would fail. And the universe, she realized, was just beginning to take notice. The SS Perseverance continued its journey through the expanse. Alive, functional, and guided by a human who refused to accept limits. The alien fleet would remember this day for generations, for it marked the moment when a single human reminded the galaxy that limits exist only until someone dares to defy them. Mara looked at the ship's controls, feeling a deep connection to the vessel she had saved. "We did it," she said softly. "We survived. And we're just getting started." And with that, the Perseverance moved forward, not just as a ship, but as a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the unbreakable will to survive. The SS Perseverance moved steadily through space, its engines humming with quiet confidence. Captain Mara Kellen floated in the bridge, her eyes scanning the controls, her mind alert to every signal, every flicker, every movement. After surviving the debris field, the black hole, the cosmic storm, and the rogue asteroid, the freighter had proven its resilience. But Mara knew that their journey was not over. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, and the aliens who watched them were still trying to understand what had just happened. The alien fleet had been silent for hours, their ships hovering at a cautious distance. Sensors continued to record the freighter's performance, scanning energy flows, engine efficiency, and navigational maneuvers. Their advanced technology could measure everything, yet they still could not comprehend the method behind Mara's success. How could a single human, with only a coil of wire and intuition, revive a ship deemed impossible to repair? Mara smiled faintly. She had expected disbelief. Humans often worked in ways that others could not predict. Logic alone could not account for creativity, courage, and the relentless will to survive, and that would soon become clear to everyone observing the perseverance. As she floated through the bridge, Mara activated communication protocols. The alien fleet monitored the attempt closely, curious about the humans' next actions. With a calm, steady voice, Mara spoke. "This ship is functional, stable, and ready for any challenge. We do not need assistance. But if your fleet wishes to learn from this, I am willing to demonstrate how a human saves a ship." A ripple of surprise passed through the alien fleet. They had not expected a human to offer guidance. Most civilizations would have fled, hidden, or demanded help, but humans often acted differently. Confidence, adaptability, and courage were traits that set them apart. Mara knew that this demonstration could change the way the galaxy saw her species forever. She began with the ship's engines, carefully explaining the simple modifications that had stabilized the core. Her voice was calm, her instructions clear, and her methods surprisingly straightforward. The aliens recorded every step, their scanners absorbing the process, yet their faces, if one could interpret them, showed confusion and admiration. Next, Mara guided them through the navigation system. The freighter's path had already proven impossible to calculate for the alien fleet, but she demonstrated how instinct and observation could supplement pure data. She pointed out minor energy flows that indicated weaknesses in circuits, subtle vibrations that revealed stress points, and how a single wire could redirect energy to stabilize the system. The aliens remained silent, their assumptions unraveling with every step. Humans, they realized, did not rely solely on technology. They relied on intuition, courage, and a willingness to act when others hesitated. Mara was not just saving a ship, she was redefining the limits of possibility in the eyes of an entire civilization. As the demonstration continued, Mara allowed herself a small thought. The galaxy was beginning to understand humans, not as primitive or reckless, but as adaptable problem solvers, capable of achieving the impossible when others had given up. The freighter, once a drifting wreck, now moved confidently among the stars. Its systems were stable, its shields strong, and its engines responsive. Mara's modifications had not only revived it but enhanced its resilience. Every panel, every circuit, every wire carried the mark of human ingenuity. From a distance, the alien fleet's sensors detected the Perseverance adjusting to unexpected turbulence from a passing energy field. Where they would have expected failure, the ship adapted instantly, rerouting power, stabilizing shields, and adjusting its course. Mara smiled. This was the essence of humanity, the ability to adapt, survive, and thrive under impossible conditions. The demonstration reached its final stage when Mara decided to test the ship's speed and maneuverability. The Perseverance had once been a freighter designed for cargo, not agility. Yet under Mara's guidance, it danced through asteroid fragments, slingshot maneuvers, and minor gravitational anomalies with precision and grace. The aliens observed in awe. Their advanced calculations had failed to anticipate even the most minor adjustments. Yet here was a human, guiding a ship that should have been slow and fragile, through a series of challenges that would have destroyed any other vessel. Mara laughed softly, a sound that echoed in the bridge. "Not bad for a human freighter," she said. "We may not be the strongest, but we never give up." Word of the Perseverance's revival and Mara's actions spread quickly across the fleet. Other alien vessels arrived, eager to witness the humans' methods firsthand. Some came with skepticism, others with curiosity. But all came to learn, and as Mara guided them, explaining each simple yet effective repair, a profound realization settled among the alien civilizations. Humans were extraordinary. They were not the most technologically advanced, nor the largest, nor the fastest. Yet they were capable of thinking creatively, solving problems under pressure, and turning the impossible into reality. The galaxy had underestimated them for centuries, and that mistake would not be repeated. Mara's journey continued, moving beyond the fleet. She navigated through uncharted sectors, repairing minor damages along the way, testing systems, and observing energy flows. Every success further solidified the reputation of humanity. The Perseverance was more than a ship, it was a symbol of what humans could achieve. In one moment, she paused to observe a distant star cluster. The light reflected off the freighter's hull, and Mara felt a sense of pride. She had taken a ship that was abandoned, unloved, and declared impossible to save, and she had brought it back to life. And in doing so, she had shown the universe that humans could not be underestimated. The alien fleets began to communicate among themselves. There were debates, arguments, and questions. How could such a fragile species achieve what their most advanced engineers had failed to do? How could a human, with nothing but intuition and courage, revive a vessel that defied all predictions? Mara knew the answers. It was not just skill, it was human adaptability, creativity, and fearlessness. Humans did not see limits. They saw possibilities. They did not surrender to failure. They learned from it, adapted, and tried again. The Perseverance's journey was proof. Every flicker of lights, every hum of engines, every smooth adjustment of course demonstrated that humans could solve problems in ways no other species could. As the freighter moved into open space, free from immediate threats, Mara received a transmission from the alien fleet commander. His voice was measured, respectful, and tinged with awe. "Human Captain Kellen," he said, "your methods, they defy our understanding. The Perseverance is alive because of you. Your species is remarkable." Mara smiled, a small, quiet grin that reflected both pride and humility. "Thank you," she replied. "We do what we must to survive. That is all humans know how to do." The transmission ended, but its meaning lingered. The aliens had witnessed something extraordinary, a human saving what no one else could, and in that moment, the reputation of humanity across the galaxy began to rise. Over the following weeks, Mara continued her work. She repaired minor damages, tested systems under pressure, and even guided other alien engineers through tasks they had long thought impossible. The lessons were simple, yet profound: observation, patience, adaptability, and the courage to try when others would surrender. The aliens began to respect humans not for their technology or size, but for their ingenuity. Stories spread through fleets, stations, and colonies. Humans were no longer considered a minor species. They were problem solvers, survivors, and pioneers. And all of it began with a single human, a simple wire, and a refusal to accept failure. Mara knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven itself in one corner of the galaxy, but the universe was vast. Challenges awaited, dangers lurked, and countless unknown obstacles remained. Yet she also knew that humans were ready. They could face the impossible and emerge victorious. In the quiet moments aboard the Perseverance, Mara reflected on what had happened. She had saved a ship, survived dangers, and demonstrated the strength of her species. But more than that, she had changed perceptions. Humans were no longer underestimated, they were seen as capable, resourceful, and brave. The freighter hummed beneath her, its systems stable, its engines steady, and its shields strong. The ship had been dead once, abandoned, and labeled impossible. Now it was alive, guided by a human who refused to believe in limits. The galaxy would remember this moment. They would remember the human who revived the Perseverance, navigated it through dangers, and taught the universe that humans could achieve the impossible. Mara looked at the stars ahead. Endless possibilities awaited, and the Perseverance was ready. Humanity's story had just begun. With a quiet determination, She activated the main engines, propelling the ship forward. Each pulse of energy, each light flicker, was a testament to human ingenuity. The freighter moved with confidence, cutting through the void, a symbol of what one species could achieve with courage, creativity, and the refusal to surrender. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, civilizations began to take notice. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were a force to be reckoned with. And it all began with a single wire. A human, and the belief that nothing was truly impossible.